Frozen in the shadows, the city never slept. Neon lights blinked from every corner. Loud machines moved through the streets. People passed by in a hurry, heads down, never looking at anyone else. But in the coldest corner of the street, hidden, under a broken metal shelter, something small and quiet was lying still. It was a girl. Not a human girl. Her skin was pale violet. Her arms were wrapped around her thin legs. She wore a torn, oversized cloak. Her long silver hair was dirty and tangled. Her fingers were blue from the cold, and she shivered badly, like a leaf in the wind. Everyone passed her by. Some looked, some didn't. But no one stopped. Until he did. Jace had no home anymore. He had no job. Just a small room in the old mechanic district and a few credits in his pocket. He walked with tired steps, holding a bag with one cheap meal inside. Then he saw her. At first he thought it was just trash, but when he got closer he saw her eyes, glowing faintly in the dark. Not with anger, not with fear. Just empty, like someone who had already given up. He stopped walking. The girl didn't move. She didn't ask for help. She didn't cry. Her lips were cracked. Her skin looked paper thin. She was going to die. Jace looked at the bag in his hand. His last hot meal. It was meant to be his dinner. He sighed and knelt down slowly. "Hey," he said softly. "Can you hear me?" No answer. Just a weak shiver. He opened the bag and held the warm box near her face. The steam touched her skin. Her eyes blinked slowly. Then for the first time, she moved, just a little. Her fingers reached out, trembling, and touched the warm box like it was a fire. "I'll take that as a yes," Jace whispered. He took off his old coat and gently wrapped it around her small frame. She didn't resist. She was too weak. She leaned forward slowly, resting her forehead against his arm. She made no sound, but her body was shaking. Jace looked around. People stared for a second, then walked faster. Some muttered, "Alien trash." One woman whispered, "Filthy creature." He didn't care. "Come on," he said softly. "You can't stay here. You'll die." He picked her up. She was light, far too light for her size. Like a hollow doll. As he walked, her head rested against his chest. Her breath was faint, almost not there. Jace moved quickly, ignoring the strange looks, ignoring the cold biting his back. He reached his small metal room. It was nothing fancy. Just a bed, a heater, and a cracked window. But it was warm. He laid her down on the bed and brought her water. She didn't drink much, just a few drops. He noticed the scars on her arms. Burn marks. Fresh ones. Who did this to her? He didn't ask. Not yet. He sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. "I don't know your name," he said. "I don't even know if you understand me. But you're safe now, for tonight at least." The girl said nothing. She just closed her eyes, holding onto the coat like it was her only treasure. That night, Jace didn't sleep much. He kept checking if she was breathing. In the deep hours of the night, when the wind outside howled like a beast, the girl made a soft sound. Not a word, just a small broken noise. Her hand reached out in her sleep and touched his boot. Jace looked down. Then, slowly, he placed a pillow under her arm so she wouldn't have to stretch. She smiled in her sleep. Just a little. And for the first time in months, Jace smiled too. He had no idea who she was. He had no plan, no money, no future. But something deep inside told him he had just done the right thing. Outside, the city didn't notice. But in that tiny room, something important had begun. Morning came slowly. Pale light pushed through the cracked window, lighting up the small metal room where silence lived. Jace opened his eyes, his back aching from sleeping on the hard floor. His first thought wasn't about himself. It was about her. He turned, his head quickly. The girl was still there, still breathing, curled under his old coat like it was a shield against the whole galaxy. Her silver hair was spread across the blanket like moonlight. She looked fragile, like glass that could shatter with a whisper. Jace stood up quietly and checked the small heater. It had only enough energy left for a few more hours. He had no more credits to charge it. He looked at the girl, then at the empty food container from last night. Hunger pressed at his stomach, but he ignored it. She needed food more than he did. He grabbed his boots and stepped outside, locking the door behind him. Just a quick run to the corner shelter. Maybe someone left leftovers. The cold wind bit at his skin as he searched the dirty alleyways. His breath formed little clouds, and every face he passed looked like it didn't care, just like always. The city was built to survive, not to feel. But Jace still hoped. He found a few scraps of warm bread behind a food stall and quickly stuffed them into his bag. When he returned home, he paused. The door was slightly open. He rushed inside. The bed was empty. The coat was gone. His heart raced as he searched the room. Nothing. He dropped the food bag and ran back outside. His eyes scanned every corner of the street. No sign, no footprints, no trail. Then he saw something. Behind a trash bin near the broken vent, a small foot was sticking out. Jace ran to it and dropped to his knees. The girl was there, hiding, shaking, clutching the coat tightly against her chest. Her eyes were wide open, full of fear. She was holding something close, a small bag, dirty and worn. Jace breathed in relief and reached out slowly. "It's okay," he whispered. "It's me. You're safe." She didn't move at first, but then her eyes softened and she crawled out slowly. She looked down, ashamed, as if she had done something wrong. Jace didn't scold her. He just took off his scarf and gently wrapped it around her neck. "Next time," he said softly, "tell me before you run away. I was scared." She didn't answer, but her fingers held the scarf tighter. Back in the room, Jace gave her the bread. She nibbled it slowly, as if it might disappear. He noticed how she always watched the door, like someone might burst in and take her away. When she finished eating, he pointed to the small bag she had taken. "What's inside?" he asked gently. The girl looked at him, then slowly opened it. Inside was a broken pendant that glowed faintly. A few alien symbols burned onto thin paper and something else. A small folded cloth with a strange symbol on it. She held it to her chest like a child holding a memory. Then she said her first word since arriving. "Don't take." Jace blinked. "I won't," he said. "It's yours." Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them. She wasn't used to kindness. That much was clear. As night came again, Jace gave her the bed once more. He spread a thin sheet on the floor and rested against the wall. The heater buzzed weakly, fighting against the cold. The girl looked at him from under the coat. "Why?" she whispered. Jace opened his eyes. "Why what?" She hesitated. "Why help me?" He thought for a moment. "Because someone once helped me. When I had nothing, I never forgot. Maybe I'm just passing it forward." She nodded slowly. Then, after a long pause, she said, Sarina. Her name." Jace smiled. "I'm Jace." The heater clicked. Off. The room grew colder. But somehow, it felt warmer than ever before. Sarina closed her eyes. Jace watched her for a moment, then finally let sleep take him too. And outside, under the neon sky, the city kept moving, unaware that something rare had just begun, something called trust. The next morning brought silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy silence that fills the air before a storm. Jace woke slowly, rubbing his eyes, and glanced at the bed. Sarina was sitting up, staring at the wall, her small hands gripping the broken pendant she had shown him the night before. The glow inside the crystal flickered like it was dying. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were far away, as if she were still lost in a world that didn't want her. Jace stood up and gently asked, Did you sleep okay? She didn't reply. Instead, she looked down at her wrist and slowly pulled up her sleeve. Jace saw it then. Burned into her skin was a strange, glowing symbol. It looked like a brand, a cruel mix of numbers and alien letters that pulsed with a soft red light. The skin around it was scarred and angry. Jace knelt beside her, careful not to frighten her. "What is that?" he asked quietly. Serena hesitated, then with a shaky voice she whispered, "Marked. Not citizen. Property." The words hit Jace like a hammer. He had heard rumors, whispers of children from broken planets being labeled, claimed by powerful groups for labor, for experiments, or worse, no rights, no name, no future. He clenched his fists. "They did this to you?" She nodded slowly. "I ran. They chase." Jace sat beside her, heart pounding. She wasn't just a lost child. She was a hunted one. A living secret, a symbol of everything wrong with the way the galaxy treated the weak. And now she was in his care. That brand on her wrist meant she didn't belong to herself. It meant someone, somewhere, was looking for her. "I won't let them take you," Jace said, not knowing how but meaning every word. Serena looked at him carefully. "You not scared?" He smiled gently. "I'm scared every day, but I still fight." That day, Serena stayed close. She followed Jace around the room, watched how he fixed the old power switch, how he cleaned the broken tools. She didn't talk much, but she listened. She even tried to help, handing him parts, watching his hands closely. When she smiled, it was small, but real. Later, Jace found her drawing on the wall with a piece of old charcoal. Not flowers or animals, but machines, blueprints, designs of tech he couldn't even understand. One of them looked like a small engine with energy channels marked out in a pattern far more advanced than anything he had seen. "You drew this?" he asked, surprised. She nodded. From memory, father was builder. Jace stared at the drawing. "You're gifted." "No," she said. "Just remember, before the war. The war. That explained everything. Her people must have been engineers, scientists. But when their planet fell, she was taken instead of saved. A child of knowledge, now treated like property." That night, Jace stared at the mark on her wrist again. "There has to be a way to remove it," he said to himself, but Serena shook her head. "If removed, they hunt harder. It calls them." "What do you mean?" "It sends signal," she said. "Very small, hard to find. But if erased, alarm goes loud." Jace felt sick. Even her body was being used as a tracking device. He looked at the broken pendant again. "What is this?" She touched it carefully. "Mother's gift. It hides the signal, but weak now. Will break soon." Jace sat back, thinking hard. He needed to fix that pendant. Somehow. If he couldn't protect her from the world, maybe he could at least delay its reach. Outside, the sky darkened. Rain began to fall, tapping against the metal roof. Serena curled under the blanket again, this time leaving a space beside her. Jace sat near her but didn't take the bed. "You saved me," she said softly. "Now I'm danger." "No," he said. "You're not the danger. The world is, and I'll protect you from it, I promise." And even though the rain kept falling and the brand on her wrist kept glowing faintly in the dark, for the first time in her life, Serena didn't feel like someone's property. She felt like someone's person. The next day was too quiet. Even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. Jace noticed it the moment he opened his eyes. Something in the air had changed. Serena was still asleep, curled beside the wall, her tiny fingers wrapped around the broken pendant like it was her heart. The heater had stopped working again, but she didn't seem to feel the cold anymore. Jace moved slowly, trying not to wake her, but before he could reach the door, a sharp knock shook the walls. 3 short bangs. Then silence. Jace froze. No one ever visited him. Not here. Not in this forgotten part of the mechanic district. His heart raced. He looked at Sarina. Her eyes were now wide open. She didn't say a word, but her body had tensed. She knew something too. The knock came again, this time harder. Open up. Routine scan. A cold voice from behind the door. We're looking for unauthorized aliens. Jace didn't move. He stared at the floor, then quickly grabbed the old tool crate under the bed and whispered to Sarina, "Inside. Now. Don't make a sound." She didn't argue. She crawled in and curled up into a tight ball. He threw a dirty sheet over the crate and stood, trying to calm his breath. The door creaked open as two uniformed enforcers stepped inside. They wore black armor, their helmets blinking with small lights, scanning every surface. One of them, a tall man with a voice like broken metal, looked around the room with a frown. "You live alone?" he asked. "Yes," Jace replied simply. "Always have." The second guard walked slowly, his scanner humming. He glanced at the half-eaten bread on the table and raised an eyebrow. "Expensive food for someone living in a junk hole." Jace gave a dry smile. "Lucky find." The first guard moved closer to the bed, scanning the floor. "There was a report. A small alien girl seen near this sector. You seen anything unusual?" Jace shook his head. "Unusual is normal around here." The scanner made a soft beep as it passed near the crate. Jace's heart stopped, but the guard didn't seem to notice. He tapped the side of his helmet. "Low-level interference, probably the broken tech in here." The second guard looked at Jace again. "If you're hiding anything, you'll be wiped from the registry. No ID, no work, no food rations. Think carefully." Jace stared straight at him. "I'm not hiding anyone." There was a long pause. Then the guards turned. "If you see something," the taller one said, "don't be a hero. Report it. These things bring disease, trouble." And just like that, they left. Jace locked the door behind them, hands shaking. He waited a moment, then pulled off the cover and opened the crate. Sarina was still inside, her eyes wide, but she hadn't made a sound. "They're gone," he whispered. She climbed out slowly, and for the first time, she looked afraid. Truly afraid. "They wear the same," she said. "Same ones who branded. Same ones who took others." Jace sat down beside her, his voice low. "They'll keep coming." She looked up at him. "You still want me here?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over to the window, looked at the gray sky, then turned back to her. "You didn't ask to be hunted. You didn't do anything wrong. You deserve to be safe." Sarina stepped closer, still unsure. "I will go. You not be in danger." "No," Jace said firmly. "You're not going anywhere." She stared at him and something in her eyes changed, something soft. She didn't cry, but she did something else. She reached out and held his hand, not because she needed help, but because she trusted him. That night, while she slept again under the old blanket, Jace stayed awake. He watched the shadows move across the wall. The enforcers would return, and next time, they wouldn't leave so easily. But he didn't regret saving her. He only wondered how far he was willing to go to keep her safe. The rain fell softly that evening, washing the dust from the city's broken rooftops. It pattered gently against the window of Jace's small room, but inside, everything felt heavier than the storm outside. Sarina sat cross-legged on the floor, quietly watching the heater's last red light fade away. Jace had lit a small old lamp to keep the shadows away, and its glow danced across the wall, flickering like a tired heartbeat. Jace sat across from her with 2 cups of warmed water. Between them, no food tonight, not after spending his last hidden coin to keep her pendant working. It was a small price, he told himself, but his stomach disagreed. Still, he said nothing. Sarina slowly unfolded the small cloth she always carried in her pouch. This time she placed it gently between them on the floor. It was soft and worn, with gold threads running through the edges. At the center, an embroidered symbol shimmered faintly, 3 moons surrounding a tree with glowing roots. Jace leaned closer. "Is that your family's?" Sarina nodded. Mother made it. From my homeworld. Alarith. Her voice was calm, but her fingers trembled slightly as they traced the moons. They called us keepers. We didn't fight wars. We made energy, shared knowledge, and healed wounds. She looked up at Jace. We didn't believe in weapons. Jace's throat tightened. That's why they came, didn't they? Sarina gave a sad smile. Yes, the ones who mark. They took our cities. Said peace was weakness. Took the children. Said we were tools. A quiet pause filled the room like thick smoke. Jace didn't know what to say. He couldn't undo what had been done to her. He couldn't return her home. But he could listen. Sarina reached into her pouch again and pulled out a thin, glowing piece of stone, almost like glass. She held it up. Slowly, an image appeared in the air above it. A woman with silver hair and soft green eyes, singing in a language Jace didn't understand. A man stood behind her, holding a little girl with silver pigtails. That's you? Jace asked. Yes, she whispered. My true name is Sarina Aelari of the Lareth Moon Tree. It sounded beautiful, like something from an old story. But in this city, names like that had no place. Here, they were just numbers, barcodes, and marks burned into skin. Jace looked at her. Sarina Aelari, that's a name worth protecting. She looked down. No one says it anymore. Only you now. Well, he said with a gentle grin. I'm honored. Sarina smiled for real this time, a real smile, not just a polite one. It lit up her face in a way Jace hadn't seen before. For a moment, she didn't look hunted. She looked free. Then the light in the pendant flickered again, this time weaker than before. Sarina noticed. It's dying. I know, Jace said, but I'll find a way to fix it, I promise. You always say that, she whispered, and I always mean it, he replied. Later that night, while Sarina slept, Jace sat near the window thinking hard. She wasn't just a runaway. She was the last of something beautiful, and the world wanted to erase her, burn her name, destroy her bloodline. But he couldn't let that happen. Not to her. Not anymore. Outside, lightning flashed in the sky, but in Jace's heart, something brighter began to burn. It happened when Jace was only gone for 10 minutes. He had left to search the junk market for a broken solar chip, anything that could help recharge Sarina's fading pendant. The skies were gray, and the wind carried the cold scent of rust and rain. Jace moved quickly, hoping to return before she even noticed he'd gone. But 10 minutes was too long. When he reached the door, it was open, not cracked. Wide open. Inside, the room was a mess. The blanket was on the floor, the crate knocked over, the pendant lying cold and dead on the table. Jace's breath caught in his throat. He ran to the window, then to the alley. No Sarina. No sound. Just silence that screamed in his ears. She was gone. Panic hit him like a punch. His legs moved before his mind could think. He ran to the market, then to the old stairs where she sometimes sat, then to the roof, hoping, begging to find her small shape hiding in a corner. Nothing. Until he heard the buzz of a drone overhead. He looked up. It was a government patrol. Drone, silver and round with glowing red eyes and sharp tracking sensors. And it was moving fast, toward the government sector. That's when Jace knew. They had her. They had her. He ran. The building she'd been taken to stood like a silent tower of steel. Cold, quiet, protected by electric walls and heavy armed guards. The kind of place people entered but didn't leave. Inside, Sarina sat in a metal chair under a bright white light. Her hands were cuffed. Her feet dangled above the floor. She looked so small in that room, like a child who got lost in the wrong story. A voice came through a speaker. You do not belong here. You are marked. You are property. Sarina didn't answer. You were hidden by a citizen. Where is he? Still. Silence. The machine voice grew colder. You were designed to obey, She lifted her eyes then, and they weren't afraid anymore. I was designed to build, she said softly, not to be owned. They didn't like that. Electric pulses surged through her cuffs, shocking her small frame. Her body shook, but she didn't scream. In another room, a doctor tapped on a screen. Her blood contains rare neural threads, she said to the officer beside her. She's not just another refugee. She's from the Loreth bloodline. We can use her. Jace didn't have a plan when he arrived. He only had rage. He knew every rusted tunnel under that building from his old mechanic days. The back grid hadn't been updated in years. He used a stolen power chip to short one of the doors, crawling through wires, through dirt, through silence. When he reached the service floor, he heard the hum of machines, the buzz of lights, and then finally, her voice. She was singing, a soft, broken song in her alien tongue. Jace followed it. He found her in a small glass room, slumped forward, glowing cuffs still on her wrists. Sarina, he whispered, slamming his hand on the glass. Her eyes opened, slowly, weak, tired. But when she saw him, her lips moved. You came, always, he wanted to say, but there was no time. He used his stolen EMP spike, slamming it into the control box. The lights blinked and went dark. The doors unlocked with a hard click. Alarms screamed. Jace ran in, scooped her up into his arms, and held her close. She felt like fire and ice, her body shaking, her voice barely above a whisper. You shouldn't have come. He held her tighter. Then they don't know me. With Sarina in his arms, Jace ran through the burning, lights and sirens, dodging guards, ducking through vents and service ladders. Everything blurred. Shouts, warning lights, gunfire. But he didn't stop. He didn't stop until the night swallowed them both. Far outside the city walls, hidden under the stars, they finally stopped running. Jace placed her down gently and checked her wounds. She was bruised but alive. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes, and whispered, You didn't give up on me. Jace smiled softly, brushing her hair from her face. You gave me something to hold on to. And under the dark sky, with only the wind to hear their words, Sarina rested in his arms, broken but safe. For now, the stars were quiet above them. Far from the city, far from the cold steel walls and glowing lights of the patrol towers, the night finally breathed freely. Jace sat against the trunk of an old, twisted tree. His arms were wrapped around Sarina's fragile body, holding her as if letting go would break the world apart. She was warm now, not from the broken heater back in the mechanic district, but from his coat wrapped around her and the beat of his heart beneath her cheek. Her breathing was soft, slow. She had fallen asleep sometime after he whispered, You're safe, for the 100th time. But Jace didn't sleep, not yet. His mind kept replaying every second. The moment the door was open, the chase, the flashing lights, her face behind glass. And through all of it, one thought stayed. She called me family, without saying the word. Around them, the forest rustled with night sounds, tiny creatures, whispering wind, leaves shaking like they were alive. He had led them deep into an abandoned wildlife zone where no scanners worked and no drones dared to follow. It wasn't much, but it was hidden, and for now it was enough. He looked down at her again. Even in sleep, her fingers clung to the corner of his coat, that same corner he had used to wrap her on the first night they met. Back then, she had been frozen and silent. Now she rested like she belonged somewhere. She had changed, but so had he. Jace had spent years in silence fixing broken things, machines, tools, bits of metal that didn't talk back. But now, in his arms, was someone more fragile than any engine. Someone who had taught him how to feel again. Sarina stirred a little in her sleep. Her lips moved. He leaned in closer, and her voice, faint as a breeze, spoke, No more cages, no more numbers. Jace swallowed hard. He had no idea what would happen tomorrow. They had no home, no ID, no protection. But they had this moment. And for once, This moment was enough. By morning, he would need to move again, find others. He had heard rumors of off-grid settlements, places where humans and aliens lived together, hiding from the systems that had failed them. He didn't know if those places were real, but for her, he'd search every corner of the galaxy. The stars above seemed to blink slowly as if watching. Jace looked up and whispered, "If anyone's listening, just give her a life. That's all I ask. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there heard." Because as the first rays of morning light broke through the trees, something changed in Serena's face. She opened her eyes, still half asleep, looked up at him and smiled. A true smile. She didn't say thank you. She didn't have to. She just laid her head back against his chest and let herself be small, let herself rest. And for the first time in her life, she slept in someone's arms, not because she was weak, but because she was finally loved.